Hi everyone, Therese Lawler here. So I thought I would read you Solo 2 again. It is my favorite poem, and I've been learning Spanish for a month now here in Costa Rica. I've been taking Spanish 4 hours a day for 3 weeks, and I took it all last week for an hour because I only have time for 1 hour here in Manuel Antonio, and this week I am also taking it for an hour a day, Monday through Friday, and let's see how well it's been going and whether I've improved my Spanish. Here it is. See if you can tell the difference. Solo tú le des brillo y amor a mi corazón. Solo tú me miras con tanta pureza y belleza interior. Solo tú llenas de alegría a mi alma. Solo tú conoces mis secretos, deseos y anhelos. Solo tú me transmites calor con tus manos. Solo tú me das fuerzas para seguir viviendo. Solo tú me hablas con tanta dulzura. Solo tú me escuchas con tanta paciencia. Solo tú me acaricias con tanta delicadeza. Solo tú me besas con tanta ternura. Solo tú me comprendes con tanta sutileza. Solo tú haces que me sienta el ser más feliz del universo. Solo tú me das tanta seguridad en mí misma. Solo tú me calmas y tranquilizas cuando estoy mal. Solo tú eres el que puede entrar en mi corazón y en mi ser. Solo tú me abrigas cuando tengo frío. Solo tú eres y serás el dueño de mi corazón. Solo tú eres mi sueño hecho realidad. Solo tú eres y serás el que me ama y me amará siempre. Solo tú eres al que amo y amaré eternamente. So, I have definitely improved in reading it because the more you read Spanish, like the better you get at like just reading it. Because you kind of get the gist of like what the word means. Conversational English here, I can understand like a pretty good percentage, 70 to 90%, depending on who I'm talking to and what all we're talking about. And speaking Spanish, I can say what I want to say. I just don't conjugate anything. I don't know like any grammar stuff. I mean, I do, but I only know it when I'm doing exercises, and it's all the same. Like, I have to conjugate them all. Present tense is the best one I know. Past tense, I kind of have to get a guide. Perfect tense, I definitely need a guide. But just the practicing it over and over, I don't really study it as much because I'm really busy with the English stuff, the TOEFL, because it's kind of a lot of work. I have to read a lot of chapters. I'm still not done reading all the chapters that I've been assigned, especially in grammar. And so I have to spend a lot of time on that. And basically, you know, I am just doing my TOEFL and some Spanish. And the more you take Spanish classes, the better it is. And especially if you're in a country that everyone just speaks Spanish, because you're forced to listen to Spanish all day, which is awesome because you learn so much by listening. And when you are, you know, out and about, like when I'm like taking an Uber, like my Uber rides became like a whole big Spanish lesson for me, because every time I got into an Uber in San Jose, it was like, hi, how are you? What is your name? And then they'd be like, what are you doing here? How well are you doing? And so on and so forth. And, you know, I'd be like, I'm here for a volunteer trip. I'm learning Spanish too. I'm doing this, and this is what I did recently, if I had anything interesting. So that definitely was very enjoyable for me. And, you know, having conversations with my Uber drivers was like one of those really fun things that I always did every time I got into an Uber. And, of course, talking to the staff at San Jose, Maximo Novell, was a lot of fun, too, because I spoke to the, you know, lady that talked to me, like, at the store, where I got snacks, and then just people all around, and just making friends here and there. And I also did tandem. We had tandem. I did that for 2 weeks, every single day, for an hour after I volunteered, and tandem meant that I spoke to a Spanish-speaking person who was taking an English class at Maximo Novell for an hour, and we spoke for 30 minutes in English, and then 30 minutes we would switch to Spanish. So they got to learn how to speak English, you know, from a foreigner, from me, who is a foreigner to Costa Rica that speaks English, and then I got to learn Spanish from someone who, is a native speaker of Spanish and was speaking it to me fluently. And it wasn't in a class situation where, we're talking about things that has something to do with the perfect tense, or that has something to do with anything that's like, the topic that's in the book. It was more about daily things, like, what are you doing today, so on and so forth. And to me, this kind of immersive learning, in Spanish, where you're in a country and you're immersed in it, and you're taking it 4 hours a day or 1 hour a day, Monday through Friday, it's very, very helpful because you are basically getting guidance all throughout your classes about, how to do certain things, and how to, just go from basic with me to more advanced basic. And so I need that daily guidance in, whatever it is that I'm doing with my lessons. But I also need that time outside of class where I am having a conversation with, in tandem, even if it's only 30 minutes of Spanish, but also all throughout the day with like Uber, the store, like where do I find this, the hotel. Back in San Jose here, I'm in a homestay. And so all of that kind of experiences definitely does basically create a Spanish class for you all throughout the day. So you are having a learning experience, not just in a classroom for 4 hours or 1 hour, but you're having a learning experience all throughout the day for 30 minutes, for 5 minutes, for another 5 minutes, for another 5 minutes. And that all combined basically creates a really intensive classroom without it being intensive, because it's a lot of fun, because you're just going about your daily task and you're doing everything that you just need to do to get by. And if you really have to do something, and speak in Spanish, like you really have to speak in Spanish, you're forced to find it in your head, to just be like, okay, I need to find that word that's in my head. Like, I know that word. I need to recall that word. And being able to recall that word over and over again, like aprender, which is to learn. Like, when I first got here, I couldn't ever figure out whether aprender was the verb, to learn, or enseñar. I had a really big problem with that. I just kept mixing them up. I was just like telling people that I was teaching Spanish and that I was learning English. And it was just a problem, like constant problem. I'd be like, I'm here to aprender, and it'd be aprender or enseñar. But after doing that for literally, I think 50 times now, because I've taken like a lot of Ubers, talked to a lot of other people, not Uber drivers. And so I've had to say that I'm learning Spanish and I'm teaching English, volunteer teaching English. So like recall over and over, like memorization over and over, forces you to really learn a certain vocab words like enseñar and aprender. And you don't have that in a classroom setting. Your teacher is not going to sit there and ask you over and over to repeat aprender and enseñar until you remember it. Like, they're just not. They're going to be like, okay, can you please study this and like spend 5 minutes on this? Don't they're not going to spend an hour on aprender and enseñar. And literally that's what I've had to do, is talk about aprender, talk about stuff using aprender and enseñar. And it's probably amounted to an hour of speaking about that. And past tense, I've never really been forced to use a lot of past tense in class, because I only took it up to 12th grade. And so we did do some past tense, in AP Spanish, but it was one of those things where you had a book, it told you the past tense conjugation, and then you wrote the past tense conjugation all throughout, and that's just how it was. And then you had a test. The night before you had a test, you would memorize all of your past tense conjugation and then have that ready for class. But the day after the test, completely forget about it and just, basically not ever really think about past tense. Here, I'm forced to say fue. I don't know, fui. I went. Yo fui, yo fui, yo fui, yo fui. Like, it's just like that every single day. And it is a very cool thing to have all sorts of things like in a grocery store, and you actually have to be like, necesito, I don't know, pollo. I know what that is though, but easily. But donde es, and then ser and a star. That's another thing I never really liked in school, and I still don't. I don't like ser and a star, and I always over and over again have to like be corrected with ser and a star, that I'm starting to be like, okay, it's location, it's gonna be a star. So it's gonna be sir, for, you know, talking about me. So yo soy estudiante, but you know, I know that. Oh, my favorite thing to do is all the time is yo me gusta, I think, or yeah, yo me gusta is what I kept saying. It's not yo me gusta, it's just me gusta. So I still have to work on that. But I've had to go over that over and over again for like a whole week. That I had to cut out the yo me gusta, because I've been speaking Spanish here and there with no guidance at all, and I've been doing things like saying yo me gusta, and no one tells me you can't say yo me gusta. Like, you can only say me gusta because you're saying I like or something. I don't know. I never really thought about it. I just keep saying yo me gusta. So anyway, going to another country to learn the language that you want to learn is definitely really, really helpful. And I definitely have been able to notice just by reading this poem that I've improved a lot. And I have to say, Spanish is one of the easiest languages for me to learn. And I think it could be for a lot of people too who have been learning some Spanish in school, because everything is pronounced, you know, as you see it. With French, it's like a little bit harder. You can't really figure out which word is, or which letter is silent sometimes. And it's to me, that's just a lot harder. But, you know, that also is because of my Filipino background. I spoke Filipino, you know, all throughout growing up, both Bisaya and Tagalog. And I now speak Bisaya, but I don't really speak Tagalog very well. It's the same thing. Like, with Spanish, I have a better percentage of understanding what I'm hearing, but like trying to speak it, like I'm not as well at that. With Tagalog though, I actually need to start learning Tagalog here and there, because every time I try to speak Tagalog, I've said it many times, I speak in Bisaya and I don't know it. I try to speak Tagalog, I really can't. I don't know why. Like, it's the hardest thing on earth, because whenever everything, you know, like I learned with Tagalog mostly was like through TV and watching a lot of ABS-CBN. And it's just one of those things where it's like, I only have been learning Tagalog mostly from watching things. I've never had someone be like, oh, speak in Tagalog, you know, all throughout the day. Like, I would speak Tagalog maybe like 5 minutes every week or something. I don't know. If that at all. Like, I mean, in Davao, you don't ever speak in Tagalog. So, and none of my relatives speak Tagalog normally. My Aunt Christie's husband speaks Tagalog, only Tagalog. And I reply to him in English because he speaks English. So when someone speaks to me in Tagalog, my best reply is English, because the people that speak Tagalog don't understand Bisaya, so I have to speak back to them in English. So I've never had that practice. I'm sure someday, you know, if I had a chance, maybe I'd like to spend some time in Manila and brush up on Tagalog. But for now, I really am enjoying the Spanish learning, and I hope to be able to speak Spanish fluently someday. I think it's going to be my third language. I'm going to have, you know, Bisaya, Tagalog, and then Spanish. So, well, no, I have English, Bisaya, and Spanish. Not really Tagalog because I don't really use Tagalog, but I do when I'm watching TV or YouTube video. So yeah, but if you are looking for a course, definitely check out Maximo Novel's Spanish courses. Their immersion courses. But if you're gonna do like a Spanish course with Maximo Novel, it's pretty cheap too to also volunteer. I don't know exactly what the fees are, but for me it was cheap to volunteer once I paid the volunteer fee. So like I had to pay the IVHQ volunteer fee, and then it like was cheaper like per week after, like, because I paid a volunteer fee plus my 2 weeks with IVHQ for volunteer teaching. When I extended it the 3rd week, I didn't have to pay the initial fee for volunteering, and it ended up just being 200 plus or something. So I don't know, that might be a good option for all of you guys who are interested in learning Spanish, because when you are learning Spanish in class, yeah, that's cool, but if you're volunteering, like teaching English to Spanish speakers, you're also learning a lot just by going to your volunteer work and being around people who speak Spanish. So definitely a really cool opportunity. And that is it for my video. Thanks for watching. Bye.